What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Mind Hiking Podcast. I'm your host, Brody Frye, and please bear with me because the last couple of weeks I've been very sick and getting over this. I lost my voice, so I hadn't been able to record and pushed it off, just trying to let my voice recover. And we are doing this the night before release day, so I pushed it to the very last day to record this, and my voice is still a little scratchy, but we're gonna do this anyway. So bear with me. I appreciate the support, and with that said, stay tuned. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Brody Frye, and here we dive deep into difficult questions. We'll map out thoughts, theories, and crazy ideas for the love of knowledge and growth. So, how do we answer some of the mind's toughest questions? This is the Mind Hiking Podcast. We are back. Okay, guys. So I feel like in life, people want to get to a point where you get old and wise. You get to a point where you feel like, okay, maybe I'm wise now and I can start giving advice. And I feel like even people that are younger will start giving advice, and that's easier to notice. But for me, I was always afraid to give advice because I felt like, who am I? You know, the whole who am I to say something? Who am I to give advice to? But the more I thought about that, the more I realized we're in our own worlds, taking in things, experiencing different things, and learning different things at different times. And it's nothing against one another to have somebody that might have learned something faster or sooner than you have, and then they share that knowledge with you. So it doesn't matter the age or whatever, but I always felt like the whole who am I to share this? Like, who am I to be saying what I've learned? Like, I don't know anything. But that the more I thought about it, the more I realized that that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of insights that, even though I am young, there's a lot of insights that I have that I can share. And there's a lot of insights that a lot of people have that share with me. There's a lot of people that are younger than me that really open up my mind and say things that really amaze me. And I'm like, wow, like age absolutely does not matter. It's an incredible thing. And that can go on your entire life. Where I'm getting at is you never stop learning. It feels like every time, like you look forward and you think, oh, once I accomplish this, I'll be able to understand that. Or once I get to this age, I'll be old and wise. Or once I get to this point, I'll have the knowledge, or I can share this with my children, or I can share this with my grandchildren. I want to be old and wise, but there's no point in time where it's like, okay, you're young and stupid here. Now you're old and wise here at this date. There's no date. Like, that doesn't exist. It's like the process of life that we're going through, and we're always learning. We're always experiencing new things, and we're all always learning, no matter how old we get. And we're all learning different things at different paces as well. And that's the reason. That's the beauty behind it. That's the reason why the age doesn't matter, is because we can all share different perspectives and different insights, because we all learn and see things a little bit differently. And you can offer those beautiful little insights that maybe you didn't look at it that way, or wow, I never thought of it that way, kind of thing. But there's also a challenge to that too. It kind of gets a little tricky. where maybe when you're describing something, it doesn't come off the right way to somebody. Or maybe somebody has like previous biases in their minds about something, and then when you go to explain something or you go to say something, it comes off the wrong way, and they're not keeping an open mind. And maybe it's a little bit of both of you, because maybe they're not keeping an open mind and maybe you're coming off a little bit too strong. So there's so much variability in conversation. It kind of goes back to what I always talk about with the human language and how restrictive it is, and how you can't put emotions and feelings into words, and our language is so restrictive. But it's challenging because you really cannot make everybody happy. That's where I want to wrap this episode around. This is going to be a short one. Like I said in the opener, my voice, I can already feel it starting to go here. It's been a rough couple weeks, but I didn't want to miss an episode. So, but you can't please everybody, and I've noticed this. This podcast I've been doing over a year now, a few months over a year now, and which is crazy to me. Time flies, but what I've noticed is there's so many different aspects to this podcast. There's like, we talk a lot about history. We talk a lot about philosophy is a major one. Lots of theories, tons of comedy, lots of childish comedy, and then a lot of serious, deep stuff. We've had people have tears of joy, laughter, tons of laughter, and we've had people cry on the podcast, and we've had people get angry. I've had people get up and walk out. And but even with all of this emotion, we're still using this human language. I'm using the English language, and it's restrictive, and especially because I don't remember the exact percentages, but it's somewhere around like 75 to 80% of communication is through body language. And you guys aren't getting that. And that's my fault too, because I haven't put video out yet, which I plan to in the future. But when you're listening to the podcast, you can only get so much of that information. Much better than reading, like a text message or something like that, because you can still hear the inflection in my voice. But it's not ideal. And as far as getting a message across, and what I'm trying to say is I and everybody else can't make everybody happy. I upset people, and if I try to do something to cater to that person, it upsets somebody else. And then I cater to that person and it upsets somebody else. And no matter what I do or what I say, it's always going to upset somebody. And that is why I like to do whatever I want to do on this podcast. I like to do what I'm feeling and say how I feel and what I think is right and do what I want to do, because no matter what I do, I'm not going to make everybody happy. Somebody's going to be upset somewhere. And luckily I knew that from the very beginning, and it was just interesting to see people surprise me at their behavior. But onward and upward, and it's a crazy world we live in. And like I said, I talk about change a lot here on the podcast, and we're always changing. Every time you feel like you're at a point where like you've learned the lessons and you're at a rest point, like you're at a point where you can start teaching. That's not necessarily true, because you're currently going through more changes. You're going through something else. It's funny, like the people that you rely on for information, the authors of the books that you read, or the people you look up to that you get information about life to, they're still living. So that means they're still going through life and still changing and still learning and still growing, still going through challenges. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody knows everything. Everybody's still going through something. They're still learning. They're just sharing what they know at this time, this point in time. And if I get things wrong, I get things wrong. I'm just sharing what I know at this time. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's amazing to share what I believe now. And I can look back on this, and maybe I can look back and be like, wow, that was dumb. And maybe I can look back and be like, wow, that was really insightful. I actually forgot about that, or something like that. So I'm sorry. Again, my voice. I'm just trying to get through this, but as I'm going, it's getting worse. But it's again, the language. It's a challenging thing, and in us human beings, we're all such beautiful creations, and it's almost humorous. You got to have a sense of humor when people get frustrated at you or with you, because what's the point? You do your best. We're all doing our best, and you gotta have a sense of humor. Like, the people that get upset, block people out of their lives, and hold grudges, it's just, you can't help but feel bad for them, because they think that they they're like, I don't know what they're thinking. I can't speak for them, so I'm not even gonna try. But it's just, it's a weird, again, another language thing. Like, you almost want to say you feel sad for them or you feel bad for them, because they're causing pain to themselves. They're suffering, which is a sad thing, but they're also trying to make you suffer. They're trying to make you feel the way that they feel, and you can't go down that path with them. They're pulling you down, and you can't. You gotta keep growing. You gotta keep bettering yourself. For you, for your family, you gotta keep pushing forward. And so you gotta have a sense of humor. You gotta be able to laugh it off. For me, I mean, we all have different techniques, and again, this is what works for me now. But I love laughing, and I'd much rather be laughing than crying or getting mad at somebody. And when somebody, you got to be able to laugh at yourself. It's this life is just so crazy. There's so much happening, and things like this last year has gone by so fast, where like you look back and it's like, it feels like the blink of an eye. Like yesterday was last year, it feels like. But then when you're in a painful moment or a stressful spot in your life or whatever is going on in your world, it feels like it's forever, but it's not. You got to learn to soak that in and take in the full, rich vastness of life. You got to, just like a sponge, you just want to soak in all of what life has to offer, because you're going to get to your deathbed and you're going to remember that. You're going to look back on your entire life. I'm sorry, my Again, my voice it's bad. I apologize. Hopefully this isn't too hard to listen to. But I appreciate your support either way, if you got this far. But there's a awesome, again, those regular listeners of the podcast, you all know that I'm a huge Jimmy Buffett fan and have been for my entire life. And he's got a song, Jimmy Buffett's got a song called He Went to Paris. And that's one of his sad, slow songs. Beautiful. But one of the lyrics in it is, some of it's magic, some of it's tragic, but I have had a good life all the way. And I love that line because it's so true. Like life is magical, but there is tragedy, and it's the roller coaster. It's the ups and the downs. And I've been saying this from the beginning, like, who would ever want that cookie cutter monotone life? That would be terrible. No ups, no downs. Like, you're just monotone life. I know the downs in life really suck. But for me, I want that. And when the downs are here, I'm going to soak that in. I'm going to take it in, and I'm going to enjoy it the best I can, and I'm going to learn from it the best I can, because that is all part of the rich vastness of the palette of life. It's a beautiful thing, because without the downs, there's no ups, and vice versa. You got to have both, and it's amazing. It's an amazing miracle that we're alive and we get to experience this. So keep that in mind when you're going through a hard time, going through a tough situation. Just remember that it's temporary and it's going to go by in the blink of an eye. I know it feels like forever now because the pain always lasts longer and the pleasure is momentarily, and that always flies by because you enjoy it. But the pain seems to last forever, but it doesn't. So just take it in, try your best to absorb it, take it in and enjoy it to the best of your ability, because that's going to make it go by faster, and then make the ups feel that much more rich and amazing. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like what you're listening to, please tell somebody. It's the best way to grow the podcast, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Sorry about my voice again. It's getting worse and worse as I go. So this is going to be a short episode because I can't keep this up much longer. So hopefully this was the only episode that was like this. So should be better for next week's episode. So stay tuned for that. But thank you guys for holding out on this episode, even though the audio is terrible. Love you all. You guys rock. I'll see you next week. Peace out.